Hello and welcome to Logic Pro Bite Size for VIs. This is a video about Midi Modifier. This is a very useful plugin that's built into Logic that will allow you to take a controller on your keyboard, or maybe even the pitch bend wheel if you rather, and assign it to something else. There are multiple reasons why you'd want to do this, so let's get straight into it. Let's put Midi Modifier on this sound here. This is a dry sound from FM8, and you'll see why it's dry in a moment. I'm going to use the Midi Modifier first of all to tie it to a reverb plugin, in particular Chromoverb wet parameter. So let's go to the mixer.
Mixer layout area. In mixer layout area on Midi Modifier chat setting but gain reduct off. Midi plugin button.
When you find Midi plugin and you find your channel strip, do VO space.
Menu.
Type MO for modifier and press enter.
Input through button. Define Midi Modifier dialog. Midi Modifier.
Now the first thing I need to do is to switch it from editor view to controls view because it looks better in the controls view. Some plugins look better in editor, some in controls. So I need to just quickly switch that.
Active preview next but compare 100% menu button. Menu controls. Controls menu button.
Right, there we go. Now, I'm going to take the mod wheel of my keyboard and assign it to Chromoverb's wet parameter. So that means that the more the mod wheel is up, the wetter the signal will be. The closer to me it is, the drier it will be. But I need to explain what happens with this plugin when you first load it. The way it's set by default, it actually does something very bizarre. It's set such that when you play the keyboard soft, it's adding a little bit of vibrato. And the reason it's doing that is because it's tied to velocity. What they've done is tied velocity to mod wheel CC1. Why have they done that? I really don't know. So if I play as soft as I can and hard, it's adding more vibrato because it's sending more MIDI CC out via velocity. It's a very weird thing to do, but we don't want that. So let's find this table.
Table, row 1 of 5, input event, velocity pop-up button, selected. Input event, velocity pop-up button.
It's currently set to input velocity. This list, when we get into here with VO space in a minute, is very large. It contains many MIDI controllers and a couple of other things as well. So the best thing for you to do is to know where you need to be and type the value or the thing you expect to find. Otherwise, you'll be arrowing through this for a long time. Let me show you.
Menu.
I won't show you the entire menu, but I'll just go down a little bit and you can listen to some of these parameters.
Off. Learn MIDI. MIDI events dimmed. Node number. Tick. Velocity. Release velocity. Aftertouch. Pitch bend. Pitch bend up. Pitch bend down. Program change. MIDI CCs. 1 mod wheel. 2 breath. 3. 4 foot. 5 portamento time.
And you see, this goes on for quite a long time. There are a lot of MIDI controllers that you can assign. So in this case, we only want 1 mod wheel. So I'm going to press the number 1 here.
1 mod wheel.
And press enter.
Input event, 1 mod wheel pop-up button, sell to items.
Now that I've done that, I can move on to the next thing, which is the output. So that's the input. That defines what Midi Modifier is going to listen to from my keyboard and what it's going to do with the next part.
Output event, 1 mod wheel pop-up button.
So now these are of course the same. This is not very helpful in most situations, particularly this one, because it's not doing anything useful. If I change it, for example, to pan or volume control, then it should, by rights, change the mod wheel into a pan or volume control. Or if you don't have a mod wheel and you need it to exist like one, but you do have an expression pedal that works, for example, then you would set the input to number 11, CC11, which is your expression controller. Right, so this list is going to be big. And what we want to do, and I'm not going to do it just yet, I'll explain why in a minute, is set this to learn plugin parameter. But let me explain the last few options in this space here.
Input through, tick checkbox.
Input through decides whether your controller is also sent to your software instrument. And there might be a reason why you don't want this, for example. Let's say that you've got a track stack and you've got, say, this sound and some other sound, and you want the other sound to respond to normal mod wheel events, but you don't want this horrible vibrato to be present on your sound because you really want to use this sound for a meaningful purpose. Well, you would uncheck this checkbox here.
Add input through, tick checkbox, unticked.
And now on the mod wheel, wouldn't do anything under normal circumstances. And I will show you now. I'll set it to off.
Output event.
In the output event.
Button, menu. Off. Output event. Off pop-up.
Now, it does nothing. Sorry about my mistake there. The reason it did anything in the first place is because mod wheel was actually set to something. Had it not been set to anything, the output event was set to mod wheel. Had it been set to something else other than mod wheel, of course, it wouldn't have done anything. But it reacted actually as it was supposed to. So let me fail so you don't have to. Right. The last two things in this window are a bit strange and a bit difficult to explain, but I'm going to do my best.
Input add 0 slider, 50% slider.
This add slider, it's weird, but I think it adds some amount of parameter to the movement of the mod wheel. So let's say under normal circumstances, you move it to halfway, then it would, maybe go to CC64, and that was what it would send out. This would add more to that. So it's confusing, but it becomes a bit less confusing with the next option, which is scale.
Scale 200% slider, 100% slider.
This is a bit like add, and you know what? I'm probably going to not do this justice. So if I completely screw this up, let me know in the comments and or read the logic manual, because I find this really hard to explain how to use properly, this part of the plugin. But we've got to cover it for consistency. So I can show you how I would use it in a minute when we connect it to our plugin, and then it might make a little more sense. But the scaling is to do with how much control the mod wheel has, or your plugin parameter of choice has over the final outcome. So 0 should be 0, and 100% should be 100%. But you can set that to varying degrees of scale. So maybe your 0 would be 10%, and your maximum would be like 100 or 90%, I suppose. Yeah, that kind of thing. You can set it basically in the middle with nothing. So you need to get the scale correct. So right now it's set to 200% on slider 1, I think.
200%.
And
100% slider.
100% on slider 2. So that's the default. So 0, 0, and 100 is 100. Right. Now, this is the weird, fast moving bit that we need to focus on. I'm now going to set
Out of input event, output event, off pop-up button.
I'm going to set the output event from off to learn plugin parameter. This is why I like Midi Modifier so much. Learn plugin parameter will attach itself to whatever plugin is on your track that has an automatable parameter of your choice. In this case, Chromaverb's wet parameter. So let me do it, and then I'll explain quickly what I did.
Menu.
I'm going into the menu.
Tick off. Learn plugin parameter.
I go down from off to learn plugin parameter. And because this menu is vast, your best bet is to press O for off and then go down 1. Okay, so I'm going to press enter, and then I'm going to flip windows, interact with the wet in the reverb, and then I will move the VoiceOver cursor by doing VO left, and that should set that, or VO right as need be. Let's see. Enter.
Output event.
Switch to reverb.
Untitled logics. Input through. Untick check output event. Learn plugin.
Oh no, it's not.
Midi modifier.
There it is. Okay.
Midi modifier. Midi modifier. Table. Dry. Wet.
Wet.
In 0%. Instant. Dry. 100%
Okay.
slider.
Did it
100%
work?
slider.
Okay, it did work. And the reason that I didn't explain every step of the process there is because if you wait too long between setting that learn plugin parameter and actually performing the action you need to perform, it is going to time out and revert back to one mod wheel. So now that I've done it, let me tell you exactly what I did. When I had set the learn plugin parameter action, I then loaded the reverb plugin. I have a hotkey for that, which is Command Option 1. You may not. And I then interacted with the table. I interacted with the wet slider, which is slider number 2, and then I move it just by doing VO right or VO left. Now, the Midi modifier knows that that is what I need it to be. So if I go back to the Midi modifier window.
Table, row 1 of 5, input event, 1 mod wheel pop-up button, Midi modifier, output event, Chromaverb vertical line wet pop-up button.
So now it says Midi modifier, output event, Chromaverb wet. And so now when I move the mod wheel, and there's no way I could do that quick with the VoiceOver cursor. As you know, you're not hearing VoiceOver moving, so I'm doing that with the mod wheel. It's very useful. And let me show you now what this other checkbox, the checkbox I turned off earlier, does.
Input through, unticked checkbox, ticked.
Now that this input through checkbox is on, mod wheel is being sent not only to the reverb, but also to the original plugin, in this case FM8. So with the mod wheel close to me, it's fine. As I move the mod wheel up, two things will happen. The reverb will get more wet, and the vibrato will kick in more obnoxiously. I'll bring the mod wheel towards me. And it's gone again. So that's why this checkbox is useful. Now, just remember, I'm setting it away from me completely. That I'm going to uncheck the checkbox.
Unticked.
Now look what's happened. I'll bring the mod wheel towards me. The the vibrato is active because you must remember that you need to set the mod wheel in the position you want and then turn the checkbox off, because the last place you left the mod wheel is the last parameter that the plugin will remember. You see what I mean? So let's recheck that checkbox. Move the mod wheel, uncheck the box, and now we have a nice control. Great. And now let me do something that I'm probably going to screw up, so please forgive me. I'm going to reverse the way the mod wheel works. Right now, towards me is dry and away from me is wet, of course. So let me go to the end of the window.
Scale 200% slider.
Into this scale thing.
200% 100% slider.
I'm going to take the scale all the way down to 0%.
In slider 90.
There we go.
Out of add 0 slider.
And I'm going to change this add value from
in 0 50% slider.
50% all the way to 100% and hope that I got it right.
In 50.
Okay, did I get it right? I did. I got it right. So now what this means is now that the mod wheel away from me is dry because it's actually reversed the way the mod wheel set up. So mod wheel away is actually sending CC1 or 0. CC1 but value 0, and closest to me is sending CC1 value 127. And we can prove this by rechecking that nasty checkbox, slider. In this case nasty because of the vibrato.
120 add our input through unticked checkbox ticked.
Right, so now with the mod wheel closest to me and mod wheel furthest away, we've got the nasty vibrato. So there we go, the mod wheel has been reversed and the checkbox is doing what the checkbox should be doing. Away from me, vibrato dry, towards me, normal and completely wet reverb. So that is a bit about the MIDI modifier. I hope you find this video of some use, of some interest. Don't forget as well that you can stack MIDI modifiers together. So if you'd rather that your mod wheel controls more than one parameter in the same or multiple plugins, you can do that. Just set that MIDI modifier in the second slot to do mod wheel again, and then learn plugin parameter or something else that you might need it to do. It's entirely up to you. But this is one of the most amazing and useful things because you could record the movement of your mod wheel to do whatever it is you need to do. And you can have a lot of fun with that. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Bye-bye.